Alright, so honestly, this isn't generally the type of video I like to make. I really don't like the idea of giving griefers this type of attention, but it's kinda past that point now, I think. These aimbots are literally freaking everywhere, and there hasn't been much we can do to stop them. Now, I know some of you are acting like this is practically Valve's fault, and they're just being lazy about fixing this, but to be honest, I think this is just a much more complex issue than a simple patch update or a small dev team is gonna fix. For instance, the lag bot issue was just an exploit being used by the bots, and Valve was able to fix that in just a few days' time. However, TF2 has been dealing with regular hackers practically since the game's come out, and because of this, we won't truly know if Valve is gonna be able to fix this anytime soon. Why these particular bots exist now, though, I'm not totally sure. The biggest theories I keep hearing, though, are that the creators are trying to kill TF2 or force Valve into giving us an update. And so I'd like to take this moment, right now, to explain to those bot creators why that idea is both beyond stupid and incredibly petty. Number one, Valve is never going to push out an update because you try and force them to. You don't force any company into making an update for a video game. If anything, hostile force would only make a company not want to work on that game anymore. And even if they were going to make some kind of update to fix the bot problem, it would probably be just like what we saw them do for the lag bot issue, which was fix the exploit and then just update a few localization files. Not push through an entire major update just because a single person or issue was trying to ruin their game. But the second reason this would be completely big dumb is because that means you've essentially made a bot to ruin the game for everyone because of your own personal grievance, and you couldn't have chosen a possibly worse time. Let me explain. You see, right around the time these bots started showing up, TF2 was actually making a comeback like never before. Had you been watching the player counts, you would have actually noticed that TF2 was reaching numbers it hadn't hit in years. To be precise, 8 years in fact. And no, that wasn't just because of the lockdown, by the way. This was actually because the game was just making a natural comeback on its own months before this. But of course, after the lockdown happened, that increased our numbers even further. So while the community was growing back by the hordes, which could have potentially shown Valve the value in updating this game again, you, the bot creator, created a bot that makes people not want to play the game anymore, which doesn't help the numbers stay up. On top of that, Valve had just finished releasing Half-Life Alyx, meaning a lot of the Valve employees were going to be freed back up to work on just about any game they wanted to. But why would Valve want to update a game if its numbers were decimated by a bot like you had wanted? Sure, you could argue that Valve would lose a lot of money if the TF2 audience completely bottomed out, but Valve has many other games they could just focus on making more money with, so wouldn't this just seem kind of counterintuitive? Now, maybe one nice thing for the TF2 community that's come of this whole lockdown situation is that it appears Valve employees aren't going to be able to work on any new, bigger projects just yet, and are instead much more likely to be working on smaller projects for now. Smaller projects that, say for example, maybe have been shelved until the completion of Half-Life Alyx. Smaller projects that maybe already had a ton of work put into them, months if not years of work perhaps. Smaller projects like TF2. So what this means is that we might finally be looking to get that major update we've long been waiting for. And for longtime TF2 fans like me, we're hoping that our newly increased player count will be sticking around to see it. To get to the point, I guess what I'm trying to say is this. To whoever created these bots, please take them down. Despite all your efforts, Valve's team is only going to make an update for TF2 if that's what they truly feel like working on next. And right now, while our numbers are high and the team is stuck working on smaller projects, this seems like the perfect time for that update to happen. However, if you are just the trolling type and are actually just trying to kill the game with no sign of stopping, then that's what the rest of this video will be dedicated to. How to help the community fight against these bots. So to start, I guess the most important thing to point out here is how to identify these bots in the first place. And while not every bot is the same, here's the most common examples I've found. Number one and most obvious, players that are landing a ridiculous amount of consecutive headshots with near impossible accuracy. Number two, players that join in and have only 1 or 5 ping. Number three, players that start spamming regular chat, voice chat, or just delete all of chat in general. Number four, players that come in and immediately start taking other players' names. Number 5, any of the above followed by the user playing as a sniper. And number 6, players that move unnaturally like twitching or continuously spinning around and around like they're actively trying to morph into some kind of freaking Apache helicopter in the middle of the game like no one will notice. But anyways, that just about covers most of the identifying traits you'll see bots use in the game. Now let's talk about how to fight them. Now obviously the best thing you can do when you detect a hack bot is to try and kick it from the game. That should always be your first move. However, some bots do make it hard to alert the other team by deleting or spamming the chat, like we discussed earlier. So even if you did type something in the chat to let the other team know, it would likely just get drowned out. So my second bit of advice is, instead of trying to fight the bots by typing really fast or copying and pasting what you're saying, instead just make a bind. The bind could be as simple as, your team has a bot, please vote for a kick. Once you've made it, you'll be able to post your warning much quicker to the enemy team and spam it to your heart's delight. And for those of you who don't know how to make a bind, by the way, it's quite simple. Just open up console commands and type in commands bind, followed by the key of your choosing, followed by parentheses say, your message, and end parentheses. Here's just a quick example. Now, although this hypothetically should help with the bot problem, please make sure the person's actually a bot first and don't just spam anytime you think someone's really good at aiming. Obviously, the last thing we want is another mass annoyance in TF2. Now, if the other team for whatever reason still doesn't kick their bot, at this point you have one of two choices. The first choice is to just leave, and let me make it clear. There is no shame in leaving at this point, considering if you were to stay, you'd be agreeing to a completely unfair battle, and both teams know this. So, if this kind of thing upsets you or makes you not want to play the game anymore, just dip out while you're still in good spirits and find a better, more balanced game. However, if you are the slightly deranged type that would agree to unfair battle and would like to stick around to show those robots exactly where they could shove their auto-aiming sniper rifles, then here's a few tips you can try for yourself. Just a precaution, however, none of these are foolproof, but they can often work in the right circumstances. So, number 1. If you're a decent sniper, try and snipe the aimbots. Although they'll obviously have much better aim than you and will take you out if they spot you first, if your team is out further than you might be able to pull it off. Number 2, laying down sentries. Typically the bots will try and avoid sentries and they'll even shoot at them if they're out of range. However, if you can manage to put the sentry in a spot where they'll have to go, you can effectively take them out. And for when they are out of your range, make sure to bring a Wrangler with you so you can still damage them from a distance. Number 3. As the heavy, use the Fist of Steel to close the gap between you and the sniper, and use either the Tomislav or the Brass Beast to take it out, as both have their own advantages towards killing these bots. And lastly, and I almost can't believe I'm promoting this, number 4, team up with medics that use the Vaccinator, or the stock Uber. Honestly, if you think you can outlast the damage, you can rush out with the Vaccinator medic and try to take out an aimbot early, but just make sure you're not too far away. If, however, the situation is looking a little too dangerous though, just take a moment, sit and spawn, and wait for a regular Uber charge to fill through before rushing out the door. And don't forget, you can stack classes in casual, so if your team is willing, you might want to even try stacking medics. Hell, go full Octo Heavy for all I care, just have fun. But anyways, that about wraps up my guide on how to fight against the aimbots. Guys, aside from the updates, we are seriously right now at one of the best points in TF2 we have ever been. Our monthly numbers are higher than they've been in years, the dev team is finally freed up to work on smaller projects, and a new update is rumored to be on its way. Not to mention, there's great places you can go to experience TF2 apart from just regular casual if the bots are bothering you too much, such as creators.tf, or closely monitored community servers such as LazyPurple Servers or Uncle Dane's new server, which I'll post in the description below. My hopes for all of this, though, is that many of you will stick around and continue playing the game through this, because with all of our efforts right now, we really have been showing Valve that the game isn't dying. If anything, has just been growing in interest, and hopefully this will entice the team to finally start paying more attention to our game again. So through all this, guys, just keep enjoying the game, keep playing, and until next time, this was Big Joey! Later.